it. This is it, Jamsters. Welcome to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. This one being an emergency podcast, as Deandre Ayton has officially been traded. He's been traded to the Portland Trailblazers along with Toumani Camara as part of a three-team deal that sends Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks. And then the Phoenix Suns, they go ahead and they get Jusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Keon Johnson, and Nasir Little. Matthew, this is the deal that everybody's been talking about. The rumors have been flying around. People's integrity has been questioned because these rumors haven't come to fruition. All that stuff's a moot point now, isn't it? The Phoenix Suns have moved on from Deandre Ayton. The Ayton era is now over.
Yeah, Ayton watch is over. Should we play it? Should we play it one last time?
Ayton watch.
I'm going to miss you, Ayton watch.
This is, I don't know how to feel really. Obviously, we were talking about the last two pods, how we don't want Nurkic really in a swap for DA. So it just makes you think, right, that DA wanted out. And I think that, Kevin O'Connor just sent out a tweet where he says the trust from Devin and Booker and Kevin Durant was probably not really there. Probably. Who knows, right? Because those two guys have to be in on the trade. They have to know, like, you're going to trade away our center. That's probably the best center we've ever had here in Phoenix for another guy that's injury prone, is good defensively. We just don't know what to expect from him consistently this year, but they had to have just lost trust in the guy, and it just was never there. So going into the season, they want to make sure that they're more stable. They have a guy there that understands the system that they can trust. And, it's a year-to-year thing here in Phoenix. DA will have maybe a solid career, but right now this year's a championship. They need to make sure they can trust everyone on the floor. That's my biggest takeaway. It does suck that he's gone because obviously we've had such a long run with him. And you just wanted to kind of see how it would, happen this year. And now it's done. It's a little fucking weird. So I don't know how to really feel right now.
Yeah, when these things happen, much akin to when we got Bradley Beal, this is the processing phase. And that's what this live emergency podcast is. It's a processing phase for us as fans, even though we knew potentially this is something that could be coming. Now that it has come to fruition, it's one of those things where you don't know how to feel, as Matthew just said. I think that it is important to understand that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant had to sign off on this, almost undoubtedly. And they did. I mean, as you mentioned, Matthew, there was something in Deandre Ayton, whether you love DA or you hate DA. There's something that these two players who play alongside him recognized and said, you know what, we'd rather go with something else. You look at all of the specifics of the deal, and I think it's a huge L for Phoenix. That's my initial reaction. Dame Lillard is going to now play alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Phoenix Suns gave up Toumani Camara, who we were interested in.
Yeah.
And, of course, Deandre Ayton. And Phoenix got the scraps from the deal, man. Grayson Allen, ew. Like, so says Jay, is a very, very anti Grayson Allen. So if you ever listen to the Fan in the Flames podcast, he will definitely inform you of that. Now he's got to root for him. So I know what we're getting Justin for his birthday. It's one of those Grayson Allen jerseys. But you also, Jusuf Nurkic, who we talked about on this podcast about a week ago, essentially being somebody who, while he might fit the system, quote unquote, part of his ability or lack thereof is availability, and that could be something that could be detrimental to the Suns if the Suns' depth behind him isn't taken care of. Nasir Little, Keon Johnson, I mean, these are good rotational pieces, but who are we going to have to give up? I mean, the roster moves aren't done simply with Deandre Ayton leaving, because we've taken in more than we've given out, and we already had a full roster. So during training camp, there's going to be some fighting for roster spots alone. So I'll ask you this, before we go more down, kind of who and what DA meant to this organization, did Phoenix get stronger relative to their depth? Did they get fleeced on this trade? What do you think?
Yeah, they did. They got better depth-wise. I think it's going to help in the long run. Right now, it's kind of like, well, you got back these guys that you just don't know if you can count on, and who knows, like how Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson will do. But going into the season, you kind of want the depth there. I was thinking too, the trust thing was a big thing, but also with DA, And the starting 5 position and the 4 position, what are you going to do there? I mean, DA is a guy that maybe just wants to play the 4 somewhere, obviously. But when the Suns are now without DA and a lot of these guys are battling for roster spots, do they like kind of go to the whole Kevin Durant plays the 5 in crunch time minutes? A couple of years ago on the pod, like I've always mentioned, I've always liked KD finishing the game at the 5. I know defensively it's probably not the best thing, but you got guys like Eric Gordon and you have guys like Josh Okogie that can play solid minutes in a small ball lineup. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. But I don't know, man. It's weird because my first thing is like, oh shit, like it's just done. It's kind of like, it's one of those things where I'm just like, you kind of just got to get rid of them. You know what I mean? And you didn't get back really anything great. But then what was DA? Was he good? Like the thing is like and I'm sorry, I'm probably going off on your question, but
that's fine.
Was DA last year? Is there anything in the last 2 years you saw from DA that makes you think like we got to hold on to him? Like how much longer could we hold on to this guy just hoping for something to happen? Right? Like ever since the finals, there was nothing there. So I know you can say like it doesn't look like a good trade, but what was DA, right? The potential's there. Yeah, he's younger, but he hasn't shown anything really. Stats wise, defensively, statistics, they can be there. But I think as a guy you can trust, that's the biggest thing with this team. And it just didn't really give me any kind of hope. I mean, I was hoping for something, but also it's just like, I think it was just like, let's just get rid of them and then go from there, where it's a year by year thing of winning a championship. So, I'll do the Suns Geek thing. Shout out. Sorry, did that even answer your question? Does that answer your question? Because I don't even know. I'm kind of lost right now.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Forth. I don't know.
Yes and no. Again, it's one of those things where there is no right answer right now. DA is someone who I was definitely excited to see play within the confines of this offense. But you're right. I mean, we've waited on this guy for 5 years. We've put so much talent around him. The hustle's been inconsistent. The attitude, the engagement has been inconsistent. And again, his fellow players had to sign off on this. So they must have seen the same things and said, listen, bring us a guy who will know his role. Because you have DA who's coming in, he's trying to change the narrative. And what does that mean? And it's something I've said on the last couple pods and things that I've been writing on Bright Side of the Sun is you need to understand that Deandre Ayton's offensive production with this team is not going to be something that's going to make a lot of Suns fans happy because he's not going to get the opportunities. It's not like we changed over the roster and we were like, okay, DA is going to be the focal point. No, we're going to continue with the guard-centric offense because we have Bradley Beal now, who scores at a higher clip than Chris Paul ever did. You have Kevin Durant, who obviously is one of the greatest and most silky smooth scorers in the history of basketball, period. It's not like DA was all of a sudden going to be some featured player in this offense. And maybe he wasn't satisfied with that. And going to Portland, he can be featured and he wants to be featured. Yeah. And perhaps that is another factor into this trade. And if that's the case, then good. I'm happy for DA. I'm happy that he's going to go to a new place and have an opportunity to start his story over again, because no matter what he does here in Phoenix, it's never enough. It's never going to be right. There's always going to be something wrong due to the fact that he was the number 1 overall pick in the same draft that included Luka Doncic and Trae Young. So no matter what, he's always going to be fighting that uphill battle. Now DA has an opportunity to go to a new organization who's going to embrace him with loving arms, and he might come back and bite us. I mean, October 16th, we play the Blazers. October 12th and 16th, we play the Blazers in preseason. Like, DA could come back to Phoenix on the 16th and be like, see guys, showed you.
That's the scariest thing, I think, with all of this. I think that was the biggest thing with Mikal Bridges when he was traded away. It's just like, well, this guy showed that he can actually get it done. Last year, he showed exactly what he can do with the ball. He's a winning player and can make the winning plays. When he leaves and he goes and puts up those numbers in Brooklyn, that's a scary thing, because you're like, well, we have KD that's older now, and maybe Mikal becomes something bigger. I'm not too worried about that. I think DA is going to be good. I do. Hopefully, he has a good career. That's fine. But I don't think he'll be as good as what a Mikal Bridges will bring to a team. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not too worried about that. I don't know. I'm not too worried about him kind of showing us up, unless they start building something there in Portland that's fun and it makes sense and he can be the centerpiece there and we're like, fuck, dude, we really fucked up. Then we fucked up, and then we're Suns fans, and our guys get injured, and we don't win shit this year. And you
we
know
call
what?
that par for the
We
course
keep
here
spending
in
the money
Phoenix.
every year to get these guys here. I don't know. It's sports, dude. So it's going to be a tough thing to live through if DA becomes something, because there'll be a lot of clips of me on the internet all over the place being such a DA hater, and it's going to suck.
Yeah, again, time will tell ultimately what will, as we get further away from this transaction, if it was the right one. This will be a what-if moment for Phoenix Suns history based on the results of this season. If this team goes out and win a championship, guess what? Right move.
Yeah.
But at what breaking point does it become the wrong move? Is it they made it to the Western Conference Finals, but they couldn't get through Denver? We should have had DA. Wrong move. Is it they didn't make the Western Conference Finals, therefore it's the wrong move? It's too early to tell, but those are markers that we're going to have not only right now, but in future conversations if no title comes from this transaction.
Yeah. That's another thing, is when you're going to watch this team, I don't think you'll know now. I think with DA, you're going to always watch him, of course, and see how that team kind of produces with him on the court. With the Suns, it's championship or bust every year. No matter who we kind of trade away, who are we look forward to, like, adding to the roster in the next season if we don't make it, it's one of those things where you just have to win. Otherwise, it's a failure. And is it kind of one of those things now where it's like we always looked at Doncic? Well, I did the first 3 years. I looked at Doncic and compared the two. I'm like, we made the wrong decision, all that stuff. Then I kind of got over it. Now it's just like, did we make the wrong decision with this trade for DA going the next couple years? If we don't win a championship, this doesn't work out, and we are healthy, nothing stops us, no injuries, then yeah, it's a failure. And I don't care what DA in Portland, they're not going to be a championship contender, obviously. But you're like, damn, if he produces and is a 2010 guy and maybe he's an all-star this year, who knows? Then we fucked up, but we'll see. But like you said, like we always said, for like the past few pods, there's something that they see. Even Vogel getting there and wanting DA, and they'd be like, okay, never mind. Like they all have to be in on this to know like this is just not the right guy right now. So that's all it is. It's nothing about hating DA or anything. He'll probably be a decent player, but it's just about these guys that are in the locker room knowing what he is and how serious they are about winning. No more fucking around. They have to get this done right now.
That's what it is. It's win now.
Yeah.
And James Jones, with his new coaching staff and Frank Vogel and Fizdale and Kevin Young, they believe that this is the best opportunity to win now.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent, you have to accept that because this is the team that they're going to roll out there. Suns Media Day is going to be really fun on Monday, I'll tell you that. I do want to give a shout out to some of the super chats. Again, thank you to everybody who is watching along live on the podcast right now, whether it be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, put on those bell notifications because it'll let you know when we're going live because it can always be random like it is right now. If you're listening to this at a later time, please, please, please subscribe, rate, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it right here on the pod. Iverson in the chat. It's going to be barbecue chicken for AD and Jokic.
It already was.
Guys,
yeah, right? I mean, DA during the season had his during the season, DA had his way. Sometimes with Jokic, it looked good, but playoff wise, they beat us. I mean, when AD was healthy 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that Lakers team was going to beat us with a healthy DA or AD. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to defend my team because I just don't care who's on this roster. If we have to trade Devin Booker to win a championship, I don't care. Like, just they got to win. So
no one snip that and throw that in Matthew's face at a later time. Black Sunday in the chat. You thought it was all BS, John? Book and KD been wanting this man gone since last season ended. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. There's not much I can say to that. Thank you for the $5, too, Black Sunday. I appreciate it.
I was going to ask you, like, I know you were saying that, but you think it was just one of those things where it's like, all right, let's just do it. They were like kind of hesitant, like, God, is this enough? But then they're just like, we just got to do it. We got to get rid of him because he wants out. We just can't deal with him anymore. So they just had to do it, right? I mean, obviously it wasn't bullshit, but still, was it the deal you think they really wanted? I don't know. I don't think so.
Probably not, because
again, I don't think so.
in my opinion, they helped. I don't know if you necessarily can say that they helped Portland get better, but because Milwaukee was involved, Milwaukee got better because they got
Yeah.
Dame Lillard, but they lost Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday will be
Oh,
paired now with DeAndre Ayton. Okay, so
yeah.
in a sense, if you look at the assets involved from a talent standpoint only, and that's what we typically do when we look at these trades, from a talent standpoint only, the Phoenix Suns clearly lost, and and they helped facilitate this trade, and that's part of the frustration that I think a lot of us are feeling right now. It's like not only did we lose Da, we didn't get anything back that was spectacular. Why two other teams got spectacular assets back? When you were talking about Nurkic and OG Anunoby as potentially being part of a transaction that
Yeah.
brought, or that sent DeAndre Ayton out, that's something that you go, okay, well, OG, Nurkic, I can see how they could be the 4 and the 5. This makes sense. This team is stacked. We're gonna, go, and that didn't happen. So, yeah, I mean, I thought that this was going to be a lot of BS. Obviously, it's not, and that's something that we have to, accept.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. And I know we didn't get anything back. That's crazy. Libertarian Sasquatch 199. Thank you. I hate Grayson Allen. We're getting a
I'm
lot of
with
that in the
him.
chat. I know. I mean, and he's a good 3-point shooter, right? A pesky guy. You might end up liking
Pesky's
him
a
on
good
your
word.
team. You
He
might
is
end
a
up
fuck
liking him
shit
on our
up
team.
guy.
Yeah. So who knows? And even if he stays, who knows? Maybe it's not over. Maybe we get rid of him. But just really quick, the Suns do have Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant on this team. So we don't have the flashy asset back, but we do have those guys. So all this has to do with is getting that one solid piece at the center position that they can believe and trust. And I think that's all it is. We didn't get if we would have got Drew Holiday back or something, I'm just saying like somebody else that's like, oh, that's a flashy guy. That's a good one. That's an all-star.
It
And then
has
we'd
to
have,
fit.
yeah, and a guy that's an all-star too might not want to come here with 3 all-stars already. So, you know what I mean? So it's just, I think it has to deal with just kind of getting rid of him and finding a solid piece.
Well, I mean, Nurkic, in theory, is a solid piece if he's available and healthy. He does
True.
fit the scheme, what Frank Vogel wants to accomplish if healthy. That's been the debate. If he plays 45 games a season when DA's giving you 65,
Yeah.
the availability is the best ability, and Nurkic isn't providing that, and that's something that you have to hope. And again, you have to make sure. I've stated this before. You have to make sure that you've shored up that backup 5 depth. Drew Eubanks, he's like, I finally got out of Portland. I don't have to back up Nurkic anymore. Now Nurkic is in Phoenix. He's like, God damn it, I just can't get away from this guy. God damn it. Again, with Libertarian Sasquatch, thank you for the $1.99 in the chat. I think we all hate Grayson Allen. It's going to be interesting to see how he grows on us over these next few months because you know what? I hated Chris Paul once upon a time too. Classy, nasty, 199. Damn, it really happened. Thank you for the super chat. And I agree, and I think we can all agree with that statement right there. Damn, it really happened. With less than a week to go before training camp, it really happened. A Libertarian Sasquatch did add another $1.99. Says Nurk will be in street clothes for the playoffs, just like Chris Paul was.
Yeah, and just remember every trade I feel like the Suns pulled through. It's like especially last year, I was excited at first, but then kind of got down about McHale leaving. But like, even if you go back to the Chris Paul trade, there's always like the fucking like, oh, this sucks. You know what I mean? There's always these repercussions. It's never perfect, right? Until you see it on the court. So obviously it's one of those things we just have to kind of just see it to believe it. And then maybe the way that they play and they win games easily with Nurkic at the center, if he is playing, or if we have to have the backups come in, who knows? If we're winning those games, you'll easily forget. The 20-game win streak is still going to happen this year without EA. So it's going to happen, dude.
Matthew dropping it. I do like what Saltiest Gaming says in the chat, and there is some merit to this. I'm just glad we're done with all the Ayton stuff.
More now.
I mean, that is a side product of this. Matthew and I have been conducting this podcast for 4 years. I mean, obviously, that's been throughout the entire duration of DeAndre Ayton's time with Phoenix. No more Ayton watch. No more picking apart a player. No more, there'll be other players to pick apart, but the Ayton stuff is now a thing of the past.
Yeah, it's kind of sad just because I loved talking about him for 20, 30 minutes. I did, but it wore us out. It took a toll on us all season long, every season.
It
Gone.
did.
It's over.
Well, it was the peaks and valleys, right? Because Ayton himself had peaks and valleys. He had, stretches during the regular season last year where he looked engaged and dominant. And you're like, this is the guy. And then he would go through his lulls of lack of engagement, lack of productivity. And you'd be like, this isn't the guy. And then at the end of the season, obviously, he was injured. He wasn't available for game 6, didn't have a great playoff run in any way, shape, or form. Did play somewhat well against the Clippers, but not very well against the Nuggets. Of course, nobody did. And we were kind of done with him at that point. But then the offseason started. Bradley Beal joined the team. And there was that peak and valley. The peak came back. And we're like, okay, we're excited for him to be in the valley. So now, that peak, those peaks and valleys relative to that specific player are gone. It's going to be weird seeing him in Portland, that's for sure. It's going to be weird seeing Yusuf Nurkic as a member of the Phoenix Suns. Like, that's going to take a little getting used to. Nasir Little, I think, is a quality addition. I do think Grayson Allen is a quality addition. Simple Eats says it in the chats. He goes, Grayson is overhated. He's a fine role player. We need some dirty players to irritate guys anyways.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go as far
like
as say we need dirty guys, but we need fuck shit up guys. And that's what he will bring to this team. So that's a good asset as well. Keon Johnson, that's somebody who could get waived. I'll ask you this question, Matthew. Is there let's say we keep all 4 players. Okay. Yusuf Nurkic, we're going to keep. Nasir Little, we're definitely going to keep. Grayson Allen, Keon Johnson. If we have to get rid of 2 players off of our team that don't involve two-way contracts, which 2 players would you think that the Suns would pass on?
Oh my God. I don't know. Who do you think? I don't know.
I think Bol and Chimezie Metu could be on the chopping block. That size, though, especially Chimezie Metu is one of those players who, when you go back and you look at him, he's somebody who sees his opportunity, two-way contract, finally kind of caught with the Spurs, played in Sacramento, ultimately didn't get, was kind of played out of the lineups because he was kind of a DA type in the sense that he wanted more engagement and wanted to do more rather than fall into his role with the team. And Bol, again, I think everyone kind of understands how I feel about Bol. I think that he is a man in the middle. I don't mean a center. I mean somebody who is too tall and skinny to be an effective interior player because he can get pushed off his spots easily, and too tall and skinny to be an effective perimeter defender. And therefore, he doesn't really have a place in the NBA just due to his skill set.
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. I don't know. I mean, I believe I'm with you on Metu, but I don't know who else. Because I just the Bol thing, I'm kind of interested to see. Obviously, I don't know who else I would give up. I don't know. It's just, I mean, our depth is it's almost just great. I love it, right? And you have some other guys now that makes it even better. There is depth there. It's not the fun player that you really want, but there's absolute depth. I don't know.
It does solidify some depth with some more well-known talent. But again, I felt like a lot of the talent that we have on this roster that James Jones built was, somebody just said Wainwright in the chat. That's correct. Get rid of Ish Wainwright.
But that's what I was saying. I'm like, he's
Where was that?
Okay, yeah, he's
John Nelson.
done, yeah.
Wainwright. Get Wainwright. Yeah. By Wainwright. I agree with
so
that.
Those two, I would keep Bol. I would keep Bol for sure. But yeah, I can deal with those 2 going. But really quick too, Salty's Gaming, good stuff. Can we admit he is officially a bust? Deandre,
not yet.
Not yet, right?
Not yet. A bust with the Suns. I mean, yeah. Compared to the fact that he is a number 1 overall pick relative to production, but I also think that Ayton didn't necessarily, and I know that there'll be some pushback on the comments I'm going to say, but Ayton didn't necessarily get a fair chance, quote unquote, because he has been in a guard-centric system since his 3rd year. His first 2 seasons, remember, he came out in season 1 with the Phoenix Suns back in 2018, and he put up some pretty decent statistics. Now, granted, the team overall won 19 games, but DA in that first year was a 16-10 guy. That next season, granted, it was less games due to COVID and the fact that he had a 25-game suspension. He played in a total of 38 games in 2019-2020. He had 18.2 and 11.5. Those were career highs in both. They trade for Chris Paul. They become a more guard-centric offense, and his overall statistical numbers start to fall. His overall field goal percentage increases. He goes from 58 and 54% to 62 to 63 and then 58 last year. So I wouldn't say he's necessarily a bust. I just don't think that he was in a position to provide statistical dominance like a number one overall pick should. Now, that being said, it was his lack of engagement, and probably due to a lot of that due to the sheer fact that he wasn't an offense that didn't complement him. And that's where you can, if you look at the bust moniker, I think that it's something that the bust aspect was his attitude and effort. His bust aspect was his lack of mental resiliency to push through that and just embrace the fact of a role player all the time. And he did it a lot of the time, but it wasn't all the time. And that's where we held it against him as a fan base. It's like, do we want this from him all the time? He's number one overall pick. I don't need Luka numbers, but I need somebody who can go out there and give the Suns 25 points and 12 rebounds. He does that. He's not a bust from a statistical standpoint. But ultimately, I don't think time will tell. He's entering his prime as a player. Do you think he's a bust, Matthew?
No, not yet overall. But I mean, it does suck that for his Suns. Maybe I guess you can throw the bust on there, but it's kind of difficult because what we'll do in the future is we'll look back on his stats. We'll look back on those seasons and be like, what? Like, they weren't bad. He wasn't an all-star, but it's like, why were you guys so upset? You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's like, it's a bad relationship. You look back on it, you're like, well, you know what? There were these good times and stuff, but overall, it's just disappointing. We're not growing. We're not going to actually win as a person, as a team. There you go. That's a good analogy, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. I think for the Suns, you're spending your first number one overall pick on him, and then it ended up this way. It does suck, dude, because there's other guys that were drafted after him. Because if you want, I don't even want to get into that. Obviously, not even Luka, other guys that are still on their teams and providing, great, just, they're all-stars already and stuff like that. So that sucks. So for the Suns, yes, but it's not over. It's a young career. I think it's just difficult to nip it in the bud and just be like, hey, we got to move on, because he was a number one overall pick. You don't want to be wrong about this, right? But it's a new management, it's a new owner, and they're just like, who gives a fuck, dude? He's not gonna fit with this team. No matter how much everybody wants it to happen, it wasn't gonna happen. Obviously, it's over. So
it's like we gotta play some funeral music or something. It's just
it's very it's depressing, dude. I'm sure I'll be like, God, I'm gonna miss him. I'm sure.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I won't miss some of the frustrations I had at the end of games, but I guarantee you that Yusuf Nurkic is going to replace some of that. I guarantee you that. What are your thoughts on this Nasir Little? I mean, obviously we've talked about Nurkic in the past. For those of you who haven't, go back and listen or watch some of our previous podcasts. We talked a lot about, the three phases of evaluating a player. One of them is through the eyes of advanced metrics, where ultimately that edge went to Yusuf Nurkic. I mean, he's somebody from an advanced standpoint, has better interior defense, has better rebounding overall ability, better rim protection and shot deterrence. All those arrows pointed towards Nurkic. If you look at body language, it's hard to tell because we didn't watch him time in and time out, but he is much, much heavier than Deandre Ayton, so he lumbers a little bit more. Obviously, he's had injury challenges in the past. Considering the fact that he, and they're all lower leg injury stuff, he's calf issues, calf strain last year, had another leg injury like 2019 or 20. So that's one aspect. And then you look at obviously the statistical output, and Ayton had higher statistical output, but Nurkic, per John Gambadoro, per what a lot of people have said in the past, he fits this team, what they need, better than ultimately Deandre Ayton could. Do you agree with that? And then we can talk a little bit about Nasir Little.
Yeah, no, I think I can't say it enough where it's more of a competent center just for right now. I think when we do talk about him, and I don't know why, so this is the thing that's driving me crazy. And I'm not hating on Ayton or anything like that. I'm just saying with Nurkic, it's like, why do you guys remember how good he was? I know you go back and look at stats, not stacks. If you look at his stats,
stacks on stacks.
Yeah, they don't compare to DA has better stats, right? But it's just like, do you remember how good he was with Lillard when he was healthy? Like that was a good 1-2 duo. I feel like I'm kind of crazy saying that. So it hasn't happened in forever, but Portland's just been falling apart anyways. Who knows if the injuries really held him back or they just wanted to actually, be like, hey, there's nothing here anymore. We got to kind of blow it up. Maybe that was the situation. But if he is healthy, dude, I think he's fine. I think he's going to be good. You know what I mean? Like I just think it's going to happen.
System.
Oh, yeah, he will. I think they'll be fine, dude. I think he's gonna fit in there just perfect, dude. And it's not gonna be about him, really, right? It's just about don't fuck things up, don't mess things up with this offense. Let the other guys handle the ball,
and
that's how he'll be. He's not gonna care about touches or anything like that. He's just gonna be a good, solid center.
What everybody's saying in the chat is just that, but he's always hurt.
Our team's slow too, and like someone did put in the chat, I'm sorry that DA. They said DA will excel with a fast-paced offense. I think that was
I saw that.
Weird. Yeah. So maybe he will there too, but we're slow, right? We have to be. I mean, I think we're not Chris Paul slow, but we're not going to be a fast-paced offense. I don't think.
I thought we were going to be a little bit more of a transition team, considering the fact that you have Bradley Beal and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant kind of lead the break. But again, that's one of those things that we're going to have to see moving forward with this team. I'm still trying to talk myself into this as a Suns fan. Nasir Little. So to give you kind of an overview of Nasir Little, shout out to Blazers Edge, their SB Nation site for the Portland Trail Blazers. They always do a great job of putting together a lot of this information. And we actually, I have a contact as far as Portland Trail Blazers podcasting goes. So we'll definitely be reaching out to him and probably do another podcast later this week.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Discussing more of these specifics. But to know about Nasir Little, he's somebody who was a rookie in 2019/20. So he came in a year after Deandre Ayton was taken as the 25th overall pick. You take a look at just last season for him is what I'll focus on. 6.6 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, 0.9 assists, shot 44.2% from the field and 36.7% from three-point range, 71% from the free throw line. His on-off advanced stats, he was a minus 8.9 on-court, plus minus a 6.6 on-off swing. 56% of the time at small forward, 22% of the time at shooting guard, 21 at power forward, 1% at point guard. Career low in rebounding rate, career high in three-point rate and three-point percent. So he definitely is somebody who last season was kind of taken out of his role as somebody who could focus on the interior. They moved him a little bit out to the exterior. Played off the bench primarily, 54 games last season, 4 starts. You hear that siren, everybody? That's it's the emergency podcast. 18.1 minutes played last season. Some injuries. And reading through, what Blazers Edge has out there, they say for every topic that left Blazers observers in a divide, opinions were almost unified when it came to Nasir Little's development. The effort is already there, and if a consistent shot follows, Portland will have unearthed yet another gem to add to an already blossoming offense. I kind of see Nasir Little as like a more developed Toumani Camara. Somebody who Toumani, we want him to be, is kind of the Nasir Little type, although Little's 6'5". He's 220, so he doesn't have that length necessarily. Did have an injury prone season. They did say that perhaps the most appealing thing about Little's red hot shooting start over the opening month was that it wasn't circumstantial. Filling out the bingo card, there was everything from one-legged Dwayne Wade-like pull-ups to miniature fourth quarter takeovers and even shades of legitimate playmaking chops. So this is going to kind of shore up some of that depth behind, the 2/3 for Phoenix. Do you think that this is a good move in bringing him in?
Yeah, and I think it has to do with the effort. It's an effort guy that's always going to leave it on the floor. That's huge, and that fits his team. The only thing is, of course, injuries and stuff. Didn't play too much last year. I think it was only 54 games. So if he could stay healthy though and provide everything that you said, that his shooting's increasing every year. His shot off the dribble, shot off even like just the passes, it's increasing from last year to this year. So I like the fact that he is a guy that can get out there and just show, I want to prove myself and I belong on a team, right? I belong maybe even a starting lineup on a lesser team, maybe not this team, but that's huge for this team. I don't think we can have enough of those guys. And obviously that's a guy that DA just really wasn't that we saw for 5 years. He's not replacing DA, but this is a guy that's just like automatic kind of a little plus for us to have. when you first look at the trade, you see those names, you're like, yeah, what? Who are these guys? Grayson Allen, of course, everyone narrows in on him. Forget about your Nurkic. You forget about that guy. Grayson Allen, we hate that guy. But if you really go down the line, you're like, oh, these are actually good, solid role players. He's exceptional, I think. It'd be interesting to see him because I haven't seen him play too much, right? So on this team, I bet you he'll bring some great passion, I feel like, off the bench coming in these games.
Keon Johnson's another name that's coming over from Portland in this deal. And he's somebody who, I could see the Phoenix Suns ultimately waiving him as a part of this deal, just to keep under those roster spots and availability. Somebody, he's second year, he's entering his third year, originally drafted by the New York Knicks, and then he was with the Clippers, and then Portland last year. 2 seasons ago with them in only 22 games, he averaged 9.7 points. But he too is a 6'5" guy, just like Nasir Little, almost a little duplicitous. Only averaged 4.7 points. He did so on a 37.6 field goal percentage, and from beyond the arc, he was 34%. I mean, I could definitely see Keon Johnson being waived. I think that this is kind of a salary match kind of thing to kind of get him in there. That's another thing we haven't talked about is how this overall affects the Suns.
I don't want to talk about that. That stuff's so fucking confusing.
Well, I mean, you look at it overall. So real quick, Keon Johnson. Tell me your thoughts on Keon Johnson. Do the Suns even keep him?
I don't have any thoughts. Is that okay? That's the one name I saw. I don't even know. I think my friend, because I was on the phone with my friend David while I was working, and he texted me like, "Oh, I gotta go." He's like, and I told him the trade. He said Keon Johnson, a guy, he knows everything though. He's just like, he should probably replace me for the podcast. He said that he's a guy that's up and coming. There's some potential there. That's all I know.
We'll see.
We'll see, right? What they do with
Keon Johnson, making $2.8 million. Somebody who will have a rookie extension in his future, but not this year. You look at how the roster construction does go from a cap sheet standpoint. This season, Kevin Durant's at 46.4, Bradley Beal's at 46.7, D Book's at 36, and then it drops off. Nurkic is now 16.8. And when you look at Nurkic's upcoming years left on his deal, I believe he has 3 years left on his deal. I'm looking at that right now on good old Spot Track. Yeah, it's this year. So he's an unrestricted free agent in 26. Grayson Allen is at 8.5, which becomes a highly tradable contract if need be. He is an unrestricted free agent next year. So that does open up some money in the future and some flexibility, whereas you didn't necessarily have that with Deandre Ayton. And then, like I mentioned, Keon Johnson is and Nasir Little is at 6.3, and he just signed a 4-year, $28 million extension. So he's not an unrestricted free agent until 27. So the big, if you're looking at this long term, Nurkic, you can move off of for 3 years, but at a $16.8 million contract, that is something that is movable, and as is Grayson Allen. So Suns might not be done yet come trade deadline.
Yeah, I think you just see how this works. I really think the ultimate takeaway is the depth that we did add with Nasir Little and Grayson Allen. I just think it's good depth. It's kind of what they've been doing all season long. It's just stacking that depth. It's going to be huge when injuries do happen. So,
Dame with Giannis.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
It's weird, right? I don't know. I think when Giannis spoke up and he talked about how he wants to make sure they're contending every year, they snuck in there and they got Dame. The thoughts I wanted, why is he not with Miami? He said he wants to be with Miami. Otherwise, he would be traded, right? He wants to be traded if he does not go to Miami and play with the Heat. Now he's in Milwaukee, far from Miami, not the same at all.
No.
I've never been to either city, but I'm sure they're pretty drastically different. But he is playing to win a title, Dame, and that's his best chance. I mean, if he were to go to Miami, yeah, it'd be more of a struggle, though, because now you're playing with the best player on the planet, and you just have to do what you do. And that's going to be fun to watch. Defensively, I don't know. I don't really care, honestly. I think that team's going to be better to watch. I was kind of sick of watching Milwaukee with how big they were and just defensively strong they were. I think if I were, going into the NBA championship, we're playing the Bucks again, and we only are playing against Lillard instead of the way that, that defense just tore us apart, right? It'd be nicer to go up against Lillard defensively for sure.
I'm interested to see how it works out, because the reason that team won a championship 3 seasons ago, I guess it's 3 seasons ago now, is Drew Holiday,
yeah,
and his defensive prowess, and I mean that was the catalyst. I mean, you look at the end of the game when Devin Booker had a chance to win the game, and Drew Holiday is the one who strips him. And Dame Lillard is an amazing scorer, a 33-year-old amazing scorer, but an amazing scorer altogether. And I have to see it. I don't know if they necessarily got better because they killed some of their depth along the way too. But we'll see. They also gave up some picks. What do you think about Toumani Camara not being a member of this team?
I don't know if he was going to get any minutes here anyways. This whole summer league thing was fun. I kind of forgot about him even fitting into this roster and rotation. It's one of those where it's like you get the good pick. He showed up in summer league, so it's kind of more interesting now for the receiving team to know, like, hey, he has some potential. So that was kind of big for us, for him to show up in summer so that we can actually add him to the trade to kind of complete things. I don't know if he was the last thing to be added, or the last player, not a thing, my bad. The last player to be added, and it kind of got things done. So that kind of helped us with that summer run. I don't know. I don't have any, because he hasn't played yet, really, in a real Suns uniform yet. So nothing, no attraction to really seeing how he does to the team.
Parker Hines, one of our elite jamsters in the chat, asked the question: thoughts on Blazers trying to trade Drew Holiday?
Oh, you think Drew would want out? I don't know if Drew wants to play there.
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of him wanting out or not. It was one of the mechanics of the deal. Yeah. And they might just be moving on to garner more assets because, again, they have Scoot Henderson now. So, like, you're not going to feature Scoot, as your primary. So they might be moving on, which makes sense. I don't know if I really care because it's not going to affect the Suns. Like, we're not going to go out and get Drew Holiday next. We would have made that happen with the initial deal. So we'll see how that works out. Anything else you want to talk about before I have to go back to work, Matthew?
No, it's time for me to go back too, running a little late. But no, I think we'll have a follow-up pod, right? Just as everything kind of settles, get everyone's takes, get maybe a DA interview, some interviews from the players. I don't know if that'll happen. I can't see DA. Huh?
We'll reach out to them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like for other, like DA, like, hey, DA, you got traded. I don't know. I know media day is coming up, so I'm sure there's not going to be anything till then. But it'd be interesting to hear if there's like a tweet or something out there or from a player, like with a sad face, a broken heart. We can probably get on that and talk about that later, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Thank you, everybody who's joined us live, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button wherever you're at. If you're listening at a later time, do us the same. Subscribe, rate, review. If you want to become an elite jamster, hit the join button on the YouTube channel to get extra perks along the way. Again, another monumental day. I mean, that's what James Jones has been throwing lobs. A monumental day. Let's just get this damn season started already, man. This has been nuts.
Yep. All right.
So make sure you follow me at Darth Voida on Twitter. Make sure you read my writing. We already have a piece up on brightsideofthesun.com. You can follow Matthew.
At Matthew Lucy. And
sometimes you can read his writing as well there on Brightside as well. Until we come to you again, which might be sooner than you think.
Go home, love your family.